Welcome to the show. I'm Jason McIntyre. I'll tell you why Tom Brady can actually learn something from Jared Goff.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why Baker Mayfield won't be able to turn things around in Cleveland. I swear it's not hating. I swear it's not.
You're a hater.
I am not. It's done with a gentle demeanor.
Hello and welcome. Whitlock is off today, so Colin and I are joined by Super Bowl champ Seth Joyner and longtime NFL coach Rob Ryan. Let's start in New England, where all the drama off the field hasn't made it onto the field so far. The Patriots just looking great in their preseason Super Bowl rematch against Seth's Eagles, including 41-year-old Tom Brady, who played the entire first half, didn't look a day over 40. But the Patriots have had a lot of turnover this offseason. Oh, yeah. Danny Amendola gone, Malcolm Butler, Dion Lewis, Nate Solder, Brandon Cooks. They all left. Meanwhile, top pick Isaiah Wynn out for the year with a torn Achilles. Julian Edelman suspended the first 4 games. Colin, do you expect the Patriots to take a step back this year?
A gradual one. Dynasty, Muhammad Ali didn't go from great to can't beat a bar stool. You know what I mean? Serena Williams, Roger Federer, they don't fall off a cliff. The San Antonio Spurs, Duncan retires, they're still a playoff team. They're not quite as good. New England's not going to become Cincinnati. Belichick's the best coach in football. Brady is still absurdly efficient. But they're now rebuilding an offensive line. They now have a wide receiving core with 12 moves since April 3rd. They have one front 7 defender, Dante Hightower, who you would consider an elite front 7 player. They've got good guys, Danny Shelton. So they're not falling off the cliff, but the Jets are better. Buffalo's coaching staff right now, personnel group, looks to be better. Andrew Luck's back. Deshaun Watson's back. Boy, the Chargers look good. I think what you're going to see is a very good football team, but the gradual Spurs feel about 3 years ago, you're going to see it.
But this is a team that has won single-digit games. You have to go all the way back to 2002.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about 15 years, double-digit wins. Colin, the AFC East has 2 rookie quarterbacks, Sam Darnold and Josh Allen, and then Ryan Tannehill coming off the injury. To me, that's 5 or 6 automatic wins right there. And then you look at the rest of the AFC, and, like, who is there? The Steelers? I mean, Bill Belichick owns them. Beat them 5 straight times. Mike Tomlin hasn't sniffed a win over the Patriots since 2011. So then who do you got? The Jaguars? Blake Bortles, you trust him? Chargers? I mean, where are we going? That's why I can't step into them taking too far of a step back. If you want to say 11, 12 wins, I'll buy it, but there's no way they're going much further.
Remember, a lot of these declines, Spurs lose a final, 49ers, Harbaugh loses Super Bowl, Seahawks loses Super Bowl. They're never quite the same. They're not doing this. By the way, this is declining too. I'm not saying this, I'm saying this. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, you say 11, 12 wins. I mean, that's a heck of a season for people in the regular season. And I get it. I mean, look, I think that Wynn kid was looking great in the preseason, and he got hurt, and losing Solder. I mean, those things, eventually, they keep cracking. They affect everybody but New England, it seems. I mean, their coaching staff is superior to everybody's, and they've got the superior quarterback. But I think it allows Belichick to go more on defense since he lost Patricia. I think their defense will get better. So I get it. They got some injuries, but Skarnecki can make anybody block. I mean, it's crazy. I think I'd have courage to try to block. Then I get run over. But I mean, they're so well coached. But I like the AFC East now. I do. I think they're coming. I like what Buffalo's done. I mean, they've got a whole new group of players in there that are buying in. Leslie Frazier's doing a decent job on defense. But I love the hiring of Dable. I like this young quarterback because he looks poised. He's got the huge arm. You're going to have that in Buffalo to win some meaningful games in December, and those are the ones that count. So I think that team's good. I think the Dolphins with Adam Gase. I was there for 10 years, for 10 days, and I really enjoyed being out there. I love the way their team chemistry is, and I know people are pointing, oh, they do this, they look terrible, they give a 90-yard run right up the middle. I mean, I get it. So it's preseason, but I like where they're going with this team, and Gase is one of those offensive guys like McVay, like McDaniels. They're going to win. Yeah. And I think they just need a defense to get in there and keep producing. I like what they've done on defense, so I think that team's going to be there. The Jets are the only ones that's going to be tough, especially if they play the young quarterback. I think they'll get beat up. But they just if they win 11, 12 games, they're right there in the playoffs. getting right probably back to the AFC Championship, which they've been 7 years in a row.
Have we not learned anything? We just keep doubting Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
That's that side of the table.
Okay.
Who does? It's not me. I won two Super Bowls
sitting
with
next to
Wayne.
you. And then what do? Okay, they lost to the Giants. They go back and they win a Super Bowl. They lose to the Giants again. They win another Super Bowl. So you mean to tell me because they're going to lose their third Super Bowl out of 8, all of a sudden they're going to have this precipitous drop-off? I don't see it. Just as long as that guy, Bill Belichick, is the head coach, and that guy, Tom Brady, is the quarterback of that team, they're going to be right there in the mix. Now, these other teams in the AFC East, they've got to get better because they've been terrible for so long. So they're going to get better. With all the draft picks that they get for being a bad team, they're going to, over time, get better and get better coaching. But at the end of the day, you guys are insane if you think that Tom Brady and this New England team isn't going to be right back there again. Because I watched this team last Thursday. I did the game in Philly, and I watched this team last Thursday come out against the Philadelphia Eagles. That defensive front four is not the same defensive front four they played against in the Super Bowl. The Eagles had their way against that defense. Yeah. When you add a guy like Dante Hightower back to the mix, you bring in Adrian Claiborne, who just completely wrecked the Dallas Cowboys by himself one game last year. When you add those things to the mix, they're a different team, you know. And the New England Patriots have had these times where they were defensive dominant, other times, you know, where they were mostly offensive dominant, you know, but they've been up and down the scale as far as their defense is concerned. And Bill Belichick watched the defense that was subpar last year, and they got to the Super Bowl. If you didn't think that he made all of these moves this year in order to improve that, knowing that no matter what they have on the offensive side of the ball, you still got Tom terrific, and he still can get it done.
Kind of reminds me of LeBron and the Cavs, right? They were in the Eastern Conference Finals 7 years in a row. They get to the finals. We keep doubting him. He keeps doing it. Tom Brady, I'm not betting against him.
Right to the Rams, where they beat the Raiders over the weekend. I watched that game. Their backups did, actually, with almost all of the Rams starters yet to actually play in the preseason, including Jared Goff, the quarterback, and star running back Todd Gurley. After the game, Sean McVay floated the idea of sitting Goff and Gurley for the entire preseason, but later said he was probably leaning toward playing some of his starters. All right, McIntyre, should McVay sit these guys for the whole preseason?
Yeah, I'm a risk taker. You know that in life. Okay?
Yes,
I quit my job at a magazine to start a website, you know, and it took off. I got lucky with it. I'm all for sitting starters and stars in the preseason. Yeah. Now, I'm sure you guys will disagree, the coaches up here and former players, but to me, it's like you try something different. McVay, he's, 32 years old? This is a guy who said in the offseason, you know what, we were good last year. I'm going to take on all these strong personalities. Marcus Peters, come on down. Talib, Sue, we're willing to take risks with these guys. Even Brandon Cooks. You know, it's just, to me, I like guys who do things differently. I love the idea of saying to Todd Gurley and Goff, hey, man, Aaron Rodgers got hurt last year. Their season was cooked. Andrew Luck, Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz. I mean, they survived the Carson Wentz injury. But you can't lose one of those two guys and expect to go back to the playoffs. I love it.
I think I've always felt that the NFLPA is the weakest of the player unions. I have never understood this. 4 preseason games. Okay, Vikings lost 6 players this weekend. Week before, San Francisco lost 5. To me, there should be a rule. We cut it down to 2 preseason games. And after my second year in the league, it's my choice to play or not. The idea that you should have a running back, what am I going to learn about Todd Gurley? By the way, the Rams have a backup running back, the Kelly kid from Tennessee, who can actually play. I don't understand, year in and year out, as a fan, a consumer, I'm doing this in preseason. College football has 19-year-old kids, 17 hours of practice, limitations, classes, and I'll watch Washington play Auburn in the first week, and they'll play good football. Notre Dame will play Michigan. I need Seth Joyner in year 9, 4 preseason games, as a grown man who, on the offseason, studies, doesn't have to worry about biology class. I don't get preseason. I don't get it. To me, there should be a game or 2, and after your second year in the league, a player says, I'm out.
Listen, the only way that you get efficient at playing the game of football is by playing the game of football. Okay, injuries are going to happen. You talked about those 6 players from Minnesota. If there isn't a 4-game preseason, then they get hurt within the first 4 games of the season. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because injuries in this game are going to happen. That's just the way it is. And in my opinion, they're more prevalent now because players don't practice hard enough. They don't work hard enough. They don't galvanize their bodies in training camp so that when they get to the regular season, they're steel. They're hardened for the game. You know, when you're talking about your leading rusher and your quarterback, you mean to tell me that those guys are going to sit through preseason where the intensity level is a little bit down here, and all of a sudden in week 1, when the intensity level jumps up here, you're just going to throw them in?
Well, why can college guys do it? And they're kids. They don't have the NFL body.
You're talking about two different games. There's a reason why they're in college and these guys are playing professionally. Because when you jump from preseason to regular season, there's a 20 to 25% intensity ratchet up. And if these guys haven't been doing it, I'm telling you, a lot of teams are doing this. And I'm telling you, the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, you're going to see awful offense. The only thing that's going to help them is the helmet rule.
the big thing, that's great, but, you know, spoken by a true warrior that had, you know, 2-a-days, full padded practice for 3 straight weeks, you know, with Buddy Ryan, your head coach.
Never got injured in training camp,
and
ever.
The thing is, that was always one of the toughest teams in football, probably the toughest team. But a lot of old school guys make you show it. You have their philosophy is, and I've been around, I've never been a head coach, but I've been around as a coordinator for 13 years. You get the philosophy from the head coach and you advance the plan. Well, a lot of the great head coaches still believe in you got to show us something. You have to show us something. I remember I thought it was crazy. One time LT sat out the whole preseason, the LaDainian Tomlinson, not LT, the great defender, but you know, he sat out the whole time, and we were playing him opening day, and I'm like, all right, he's going to have a few jitters. Well, he did for the first half, and then he came on at the end there. But the thing is, the truth is, look, Whitworth, I get it. He's 1,000 years old, and he's going to be able to kick slide into his 60s probably. But these other guys, timing is important. Just like Seth said, just call some different plays. Call a little swing pass and a hitch out there. Get them on the field. Get them used to the game. But they got to play football. Look, the rules during the season, what, is this guy never going to have a padded practice? Like, that's a war that goes on Sundays. That is a war. It's the most violent sport there is, but it's the greatest. But it's played by gladiators. So when you take them out of the circle and then put them back in, it ain't going to be as good as when you just keep them in there and let them go, because that's what they love.
All right, welcome back, Seth Joyner. Here he is. Does some Eagles stuff. The team that won the Super Bowl one time. It's a walk-off. That won't happen again. Joined now by Fox Sports rules analyst Dean Blandino. Let's return to the NFL, where the preseason hasn't been without its share of drama, mostly over the league's new rule outlawing leading with the head, which has already led to a rash of controversial penalties on plays that look to most people like, you know, routine tackles. Not surprisingly, the always outspoken Richard Sherman is leading the charge against the rule, tweeting, quote, "To all these people, including those who made the rule, I want a video of you running full speed and being led by anything but your head while also attempting to bring down a moving target. You'll soon realize it's impossible. There is no make adjustment to the way you tackle. Even in perfect form, tackle the body is led by the head. The rule's idiotic and should be dismissed immediately. When you watch rugby players tackle, they are still leading by their head. We'll be flag football soon." All right, Dean, you trust the NFL to fix the issue.
I do trust the NFL to fix the issue. I just think it's going to take a little bit longer than everybody's going to be comfortable with, just because of the way the rule was implemented. Normally a rule like this, you vet it out, you look at tape, you meet with the Players Association at the Combine. None of that happened. The league meeting, they had a privileged session with head coaches and ownership. They presented health and safety data. And the next day, they're voting on this rule. And I think now we're playing catch-up.
Yeah, here's my takeaway, where I think it's unfair to offensive players, or defensive players, is that, let's say it's 3rd and 2. You're in the flat. I toss it out to a running back who weighs 240. He's got an 8-yard head start, and he puts his head down. An arm tackle, he gets the first down. This sport is about me as an offensive guy picking up first downs, and you as a defense getting me off the field. In these short yardage situations where an offensive player runs toward me, arm tackles get nothing accomplished. So I think it's completely unfair. I think defensive players now feel like we don't get paid the most, we don't get the endorsements, we don't get the love, and now forget the over the secondary stuff. Where does a line, look at these, what is a corner and a linebacker supposed to do there?
Can I be optimistic here, be a ray of sunshine? I think they're just calling it tight in the preseason to let people know, hey, we're going to call it. But come the regular season, they're not going to be calling this stuff. They just can't. You know how the game would be slowed down by minutes significantly? And in the era of distracted fans, when we've got cell phones and they got video games, you can't slow a game down with 15 penalties on the defense. It's just not going to work.
There's no question. I mean, that's what they're doing. Yeah. And that's no different than any other emphasis foul where the officials are directed, when in question, throw the flag. We'll put together some tape, and we'll get it right by the start of the regular season.
But that sounds good. But when it's come to the anthem, the catch rule, domestic violence, they've not been quick. I love the NFL. They don't solve their problems.
Progress is glacial at times.
They are slow to change their mind.
I do not trust that the NFL will fix this. I understand and respect why they're trying to do this, but the game of football is played and meant to be played a certain way, and you can't deviate that far away from it. My biggest problem with this is the rule says it's a foul if a player lowers his head. It doesn't say a defensive player or offensive player or a special teams player. But I would challenge everybody up here to go and look through the first 2 preseason games, 32 games, and show me a tape where one offensive player has been called for this foul.
Yeah.
They've all been called on the defensive side of the ball. And what it's leading to is that, you know, we're evolving into this pity-pat, lay on each other type of game on the defensive side of the ball, where the offense is allowed to, knowing where they're going, knowing what the snap count is, to play the game at a fast pace. And as a defensive player, I've got to be cognizant of everything. Listen, football's a game of leverage. And coaches have always told us the low man always wins. So if a running back is barreling at me 100%, and I got to come up and I got to make a tackle, and he starts to lower his center of gravity, that means I've got to lower mine to match. Okay? If I don't, then he's going to run me over and keep running. I'm going to be the butt of the jokes Monday morning in the film session, and he's going to score, and the coach is going to be looking at me like, you know, what the heck was that? The way the game is played, it's impossible. Richard Sherman is correct. It's impossible. Now, I get it. If a guy comes up and he launches himself and tries to strike with the crown of the helmet, absolutely. I believe that we're one generation of football players away from getting this right, because I've always taught my young kids, strike with the face mask.
Right.
Back in the day, you used to see, you know, linebackers and safeties with these big necks, you know, because they would strike with the face mask, and that required that they engage those neck muscles in order, and it accomplishes 2 things. You see what you're hitting,
right,
and you take away concussions, neck injuries, and all those types of things. But they want you to completely take your head out of football. That doesn't work, because if a guy's got momentum, the getting across the bow, getting across the guy to stop his momentum, that's how you do that. And there's no other way around that.
You know, what's happening in the NBA, and we've seen it happen gradually, it's become really an offensive league. You can almost take 3 steps now. It's incredibly, you can't hand check. You can't, and so the NBA, I think the NFL looks at that and goes, well, the NBA's never been hotter. And they've modified all their rules offensively. Michael Jordan used to just steer you around the court, and he was the most popular player. Part of me thinks the NFL is watching millennials watch basketball, and they're like, what's the value of quarterbacks getting hurt, running backs getting hurt, 9 to 6 games? And I think most people have copied the NFL for years because they do it right. I think the NFL is watching the NBA and saying, there's no value in injured stars.
How much more of an advantage can you give the offensive side of the ball? There was a time where you could beat the wide receiver, the tight end, the running back up at the line of scrimmage and take him completely out of the route. Now you can only chuck him or jam him within a 5-yard, you know, radius, within 5 yards one time, and then you got to let him go, and then you got to cover him. You know, well, listen, if you're in the NFL, the highest order of, you know, of football, and you can't get off a jam, then you should go to McDonald's and flip burgers. That's just the way it is. That's the way it should be. But you give the advantage to the offensive side of the ball when you can't take a guy out of the route, and then what you have is in these games, you got defenders are afraid to get up and challenge people. They're playing off, even in man. Even when they get up and bump, they turn, they open the gate, and they let the guy run by him. And you're basically playing 7-on-7. And offenses are moving up and down the field. You know, quarterbacks are throwing for 4,000 or 5,000 yards a season. How much more of an advantage do they need?
And this isn't new, by the way. I think the NFL, I've been in these rules meetings, and they always look at points scored, they look at number of plays, and many of these rules are slanted towards the offense. That's what puts people in
And
the
those
seats.
numbers are way up,
And those
aren't they?
numbers are up. But if you look at last year, I think one of the alarming stats from last year, passing yards were down per game.
Yeah, but is Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun
It's possible. It's possible. I think it's also that stuff downfield, the illegal contact defensive holding, wasn't called as tightly. But I think Seth made a great point. We are a generation away. This is a culture change.
Absolutely.
And I remember when I first started at the NFL, I was an intern cutting video. And in 1994, and you played with this guy, I put together a Chuck Cecil highlight reel.
Yeah.
And he was just crushing people. And if you put that tape on today, I don't think there's anybody, any fan, anybody associated with the game would think that that's okay. And it was acceptable at that point.
Oh, it was not only accepted, it was glorified.
Exactly, it was glorified. And then in 1995, they said, we've got to fix this. We've got to put in rules protecting defenseless players. I think that's what we're seeing. And this is a broad change. But I think we're just trying to see this culture change. And like you said, I think we're a generation away.
I wish we had more time, because you want to know something? That whole theory about a defenseless player, my question is, who makes them defenseless? When you have quarterbacks that don't read coverages correctly and they're late with the ball, the onus goes on the quarterback because he didn't throw the ball on time. So now he put his receiver in a position of being defenseless. That shouldn't fall. That onus shouldn't fall squarely on the defensive player. The defensive player is just doing his job. And he's trying to shift momentum. Big hits back in my day, they shifted the momentum in the game. It seems to me that the NFL is trying to take all big hits out of the game unless it's an offensive player putting it on a defensive player.
Welcome back. Seth Joyner, Rob Ryan are back. Let's move to Cleveland, where Collins' guy, Baker Mayfield, didn't exactly light it up in his second preseason game, facing a stiff pass rush, struggling to move the ball against the lowly Buffalo Bills. Baker finished just 7 of 13, 75 yards, no TDs. A far cry from that electrifying debut against the Giants. Cowherd, can your buddy Baker Mayfield really change the culture in Cleveland?
No, because I think it's totally unfair. Tom Brady wouldn't change the culture without a great owner and Bill Belichick. You can't ask players to change cultures, okay? You find me a great all-time quarterback with an average GM. Oh, Troy Aikman had Jimmy Johnson, and Joe Montana had Bill Walsh. Who's Brady? Big Ben. This idea that a quarterback comes in, the GM's an idiot, and the coach can't coach, and he's just going to take over the league, it doesn't work that way. This is a dysfunctional organization. Do I think Baker can win a bunch of games? Absolutely. There's no question. He's a nice quarterback. I think his ceiling's lower than everybody. He's not Drew Brees. He's not going to be Russell Wilson. But this idea that, hey, Baker, hey, you change all the dysfunction for 10 years. It doesn't work that way. Drew Brees works in New Orleans because of Sean Payton. And by the way, Mickey, the GM, Mickey Loomis had a draft 2 years ago where he found like 9 guys who can play in college. So it takes a village.
I'll half agree with you. I don't think Baker can do it this year. But if Hugh Jackson gets dusted, if they struggle out of the gate and he's gone by Halloween, I firmly believe John Dorsey, the new GM, will look for a coach to fit Baker Mayfield. I don't know if he's going to go for his guy Lincoln Riley, Baker's college football coach, but Baker Mayfield's tied to the GM. Okay, you pick Baker Mayfield number one, you have to get him a head coach.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't work out this year, I do believe maybe Baker has a chance down the road. I'm not as sold on him as a lot of other people, but perhaps you are, Rob.
Well, no. The thing is, look, you got a new GM there. They had the first and the fourth pick in the draft. I think it's going to be there. Look, that Cleveland fan base isn't dysfunctional. That's like the best fan base. They love football. They're starving for something. They got the first and the fourth pick. Awesome. All right, who'd you get? Barkley and that Josh Allen kid? Can they get a do-over? Because that's what they should have done. Look, I don't see the redeeming quality of Baker Mayfield. I don't. Look, at Josh Allen, he's got the gigantic arm. Barkley, he makes unbelievable plays outside on the perimeter. I don't see it. And if you're going to take the first player in the draft, you need a franchise guy.
Yeah.
All right, look, the first year I never saw it in Goff. Well, I did, to your point, when he got a new coach. Yeah. All right, he got McVay. I get it. And, so it'll be interesting to see what this kid can do. The redeeming qualities, 50% completions in the preseason's not gonna wow you. And one of them maybe been down the field past 10 yards because the first out route he threw in last preseason game should have been picked because he has no arm strength. He should have hit the cutoff man. But I don't see it there. I don't think this team's as dysfunctional as people think. They've got a ton of talent on that offense. And on defense, all they do is have first-rounders all over the place, Myles Garrett included. I mean, they should be pretty darn good. They got, I think with Tyrod Taylor, they're going to prove they're not dysfunctional. And but if they put this kid in, they're going to be dysfunctional.
Well, I don't agree with either one of you guys because, I had Baker Mayfield as my best quarterback coming out. I'm glad they took him where they took him. The only thing as far as the draft that I would like them see them do different is take Barkley first, and then they could have came back and got Baker Mayfield if that's the guy that they wanted. Because I don't think the other guys at 2 and 3 liked him that much that they would have taken him. So they could have pulled a coup, if you will. The good thing for Baker is that he doesn't have to be good this year because they got Tyrod Taylor. And he is the only quarterback that you'll ever hear me say, because I don't believe that you draft quarterbacks in the top 10 and don't play them. If you take them in the top 10, the message that you're sending is they're NFL ready now. Right. So you put them on the field, and if you got a bad team, you let them grow with the rest of the players until you get to a point where you can win. The same issues you're going to be facing in year 2 are going to be facing you in year 1. So you might as well put the guy in and let him grow. But they made the decision before the draft to go with Tyrod, gave him the title as the starter, and no matter who they picked was going to be the guy that's going to sit behind him. He's learning the game. So, 50% completion in the preseason, you kind of expect that. But the thing I like about him is he has some intangibles that you can't teach, okay? He's a competitor. You might have to rein him in a little bit, but he's a competitor. You can't inject that into a player, okay? There's a stat that I saw that 70% of the passes in the NFL are 20 yards or less, okay? And the good quarterbacks, they complete somewhere around 72 to 73% of them. This kid last year, he completed 75% of his passes at 20 yards or less. So don't tell me he can't play in the NFL.
That's in the Big 12.
Doesn't matter.
They play
doesn't,
Arena League defense.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Once he understands defenses, once he gets the pre-snap stuff, and he understands where he's supposed to go with the ball, when he's supposed to go, and there's no indecision, he's able to do it. And the other aspect that he brings is that when it all breaks down, he can ad-lib, and he's going to compete. He's going to compete.
All these guys are going to compete, Seth. I mean, the biggest thing is, I think you're not seeing it the way I do, is this way. All right, to play in the National Football League, all right, you see those, I'm going to put it in your terms, your wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. All right, there's a kid that led the nation in tackles. He played for some little school. That's great. He's going to be an instant Pro Bowler out there in the NFL. He's short. Now, he can't play. Well, no, I'm going to take Seth Joyner from UTEP. There's a big difference. There's a pro body with pro qualities, toughness, can rush the passer, can cover, a 40-40 guy, one and only guy. Or you're going to take this kid who has no redeeming qualities, but he won the Butkus Award, or he did all this stuff. Look, I don't care what award he won in college in the Big 12. They haven't played defense there. They've got a lot of quarterbacks come out of the Big 12.
None of them have been
Chase
good.
Daniel, Colt McCoy, they're all the same size. There's no production guys. The NFL, it's a copycat league. Show me a big arm. Show me a quarterback who can throw the ball from the pocket like Drew Brees. A lot of things this kid does, he gets outside of the pocket in his production in college. They have a scheme. They play one coverage in college. He abuses it. And that Riley kid is a sending coach. Good. Bring him in the NFL. He'll find out too.
I will say this in closing. When you make the analysis of me and the other guy,
right?
Okay. I came from a school that wasn't a very good football school. So nobody knew about me.
Wyoming.
Okay. As an 8th round draft pick, I look back and say, well, heck, we had a 1A and 1B. I could have been the 1B because the 1B after 2 years was gone and I was starting. It's all about development, and the thing that Wade did and the thing that your dad did and the thing that, Jeff Fisher did is those guys helped me develop even though I was not NFL ready. So if you can develop this kid, he has all the intangibles.
You had the talents.
I'm not going to. I'm not. Rob, I'm not going to sit here and say that Baker Mayfield doesn't have talent.
I'm not.
You don't win. You don't win as many games as he won,
and
you don't.
Franchise quarterback. That's the thing.
Well,
if you're going to draft a guy in the first overall
we're
pick,
saying
I'm assuming you need.
So we're arguing and we're saying that this guy isn't. He doesn't have #1 talent. We don't know that yet.
First overall.
We don't know that yet.
Well,
I mean, there were 30 teams, 7 times that didn't know that I could be the player that I was. But your dad saw something in me that those other teams didn't see.
Right. It's called an eye for talent.
All right, to New York, where every Jets fan, including McIntyre, has the same question on their mind. How long before the team hands the keys over to Sam Darnold? Well, apparently not long. Darnold reportedly trending toward being the starter in Week 1. All right, J. Mack, in your completely unbiased, disinterested opinion, should Sam Darnold be a lock to start for the Jets Week 1?
I talked about this for hours on my radio show this weekend. Without question, Darnold has to start Week 1. And I think the best analogy is Carson Wentz, who Seth is familiar with. The Eagles drafted Carson Wentz. They traded up to get him, and they said, we've got Sam Bradford. We're going to sit Wentz. As soon as another quarterback got injured, let's trade Sam Bradford. Let's flip him for Fix. And they started Wentz. Carson Wentz started 3-0. Do you remember that?
Yep.
The rookie year, he beat I think he beat Pittsburgh at home, a rout.
Yeah.
And then he fell back to earth a little bit. 16 TDs on the season. They were fine. What happened in year 2? He made that massive leap.
Yeah.
In his second year, reading the defenses, getting up on speed, and he was the MVP leader before the injury. I think Sam Darnold can have a Carson Wentz type trajectory. Start in year 1. He's going to go through the ups and downs because they don't have a great roster. And then in year 2, they make the leap to the playoffs.
I think, my initial takeaway was this offensive line's awful. Let's protect him. But I will say there's 2 things going on here. Number 1, Teddy Bridgewater is a starter in this league. Okay, there's 6, 8 teams he can start for. I'd start with Jacksonville and Miami. He's from Florida. He's better than Bowles to me, and he's better than Tannehill. And I think a lot of people in the NFL believe he's the best non-starter right now currently available. Jacoby Brissett's also up there. So what can I get for Bridgewater? Well, I sat with an NFL assistant coach this weekend, had a beer, won, and he said, you can get a starting right tackle and a 3rd-round pick.
There you go.
If I'm the Jets, with that offensive line, and I can get a starting right tackle and a pick next year so I can take 2 early picks on the offensive line, I think you go with Darnold.
This might sound contradictory to what I said in the last segment. You got to kind of be careful with some guys, though, okay? Because you can put him in there. If he falters and you got to take him out, now you fractured his confidence.
No.
So you have to be careful. If you got a guy like Teddy Bridgewater who's been playing well, why would you not take the same route that most GMs want to take anyway, is to redshirt the guy and let Teddy play? What do you get with Teddy playing? If he succeeds, you increase the value that you have for him. So going into next season, you got an asset. You got an asset that you can move to get more assets. That's the smart thing to me.
What's interesting, Seth is saying this. What's interesting about the Jets is no NFL schedule is easy, but the Jets have the 2nd easiest schedule in the first 2 months. So you can do what Seth says, which is you can win some games with Teddy, and somebody's going to get hurt. Or do you say to yourself, listen, the NFL GMs already think he can start. Let's let Sam in the first 6 weeks go 3-3 and grow confidence. I think you could make an argument for both, but I do think the Jets' schedule
could go the other direction too.
You're right. What if Sam starts 1-6?
Quick note on if you play him early. Listen, the Rams put Jared Goff in midseason. He was awful as a rookie. I believe he went 0-7, only got like 5 TD passes. Everybody said he was a bust. I think you said he was a bust. I didn't. Maybe you did. Second year, 11-5, 28 TD passes, playoff team. So I don't want to say that you shatter his confidence. Jared Goff.
I think this. Look, this is a unique situation. They do have a guy that can play, Teddy Bridgewater. They don't have a very good offensive line. Look, Troy Aikman has all the talent in the world. This guy, one of the greatest to ever play the game. He plays in Dallas with a line that ends up becoming great once they start drafting for it. But that first year, they got killed. This guy got absolutely killed, never won a game. The only game they won that year in Dallas was with another quarterback.
Right.
So David Carr, what happened to him? He got fed to the wolves, and I don't think he ever recovered. He had talent, but he never recovered. So I think this is delicate. This is the franchise guy. There's no question. But the team, to me, looks further away.
It's really about understanding and knowing your personnel. I think that we fall in love with these players' ability sometimes without delving into their psyche and understanding what you have. Some guys are tough as nails. They're made of stone. Nothing shakes them. Nothing moves them.
I think that's
and
Darnold.
That was Aikman.
Yeah, and you can eat them up, and they'll get right back up and go to war. And some guys, they're a little fragile. If they get eaten up like that, they go in the tank and you've lost them for the season. So if the Jets understand his psyche and what he's made of, then go ahead and play him. Because
this is the best point because
I
Darnold
agree.
was a linebacker in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So Darnold's got a little Favre in him. He's a little reckless because he was a linebacker. He'll hit you.
Okay.
I agree. If he was Josh Rosen, a little bit more of a finesse, tennis player, been hurt, I agree with you. Sit him. I think Darnold, you can go 0-4, he can get beat up. He's resilient. I think the prototype with him has always been Luck and Favre.
Yeah.
They're kind of blue-collar mentality guys. I think Darnold has that quality. He doesn't mind getting hit.
you got Jets fans.
Yes. We're just talking about the Jets. I'm happy.
Welcome back, Seth Joyner, Rob Ryan here. Let's move to Indianapolis. Andrew Luck gonna play in the second quarter tonight against Baltimore. Big jump from the 2 series he played in the preseason opener. According to the Colts' new head coach, Frank Reich, Luck has brought a palpable energy to training camp after his long road back from shoulder surgery. All right, McIntyre, confident Andrew Luck is going to return to Pro Bowl form.
One of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. Love Andrew Luck. Passionately. Big fan. I'm concerned. Colin, they're going to have a rookie on the offensive line, 2 other new starters. Their best running back is a guy by the name of Marlon Mack.
Yeah.
Okay, when Andrew Luck was hurt 2 years ago, his best receiver was Ty Hilton. I can't even name their number 2. It's the same situation. Ty Hilton's their only guy. I have some concerns about this team. Remember, the division is a lot better now. Marcus Mariota's a starter. Deshaun Watson is a starter. The Jaguars have the best defense in the league. I have some concerns about Andrew Luck. I don't think he's a Pro Bowler this year, but man, I love Andrew Luck.
I agree. I think he's going to be really good. He's not 100%. And so you could be the greatest linebacker in the world. If you're 80%, you're not going to be as good. And the division, Jacksonville's good. Deshaun Watson and Houston's roster outside of their O-line's good. I mean, Tennessee beat Jacksonville twice last year. They're pretty good. So I think Andrew's going to be a really good player. But, it's okay. Like, this happens. Michael Jordan comes back, remember? And Michael Jordan has the year. People forget that it existed. Yeah. He came back and lost to Orlando in the playoffs.
Yep.
It took the greatest basketball player ever a year of being away to kind of ramp up. He was really good, but he wasn't quite MJ. Next year, he went on to win first of 6, or third or fourth of 6, whatever. So I just think Luck's going to be good, not super this year.
Well, the question is he going to return to the Pro Bowl this year, or is he going to return to the Pro Bowl? Listen, this kid can play quarterback. There's no doubt about it.
Question.
Okay, and even though he's been away from the game for a while because of injury, when he gets back and he gets his feet wet, he's going to be slicing and dicing the same way he was before he got injured. Okay, now you got to realize he did all of that with no offensive line and 1 wide receiver, no help. Okay, and one thing I know about Frank Reich is going to put him in a position for him to be able to succeed. He's not going to sit in the pocket with the ball. You're not going to see him scrambling all over the place. He's going to throw the ball on time. He's going to make smart decisions because he's a very cerebral quarterback. He's going to make all the right decisions and keep himself healthy. Now, he might not get back to Pro Bowl level this year, and I'm not going to discount that he won't this year. Right. But I tell you what, this kid can play football. And there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be trending back where he was trending before he got injured. Right. And Indianapolis they better. You spend the number 1 pick overall to go get your franchise quarterback, and then you don't draft any offensive linemen to protect him. Will you please draft some offensive linemen for this guy? Because he can be so great if he gets some protection and a little bit of running game.
Right, but they got the guard this year. That'll help him, that Quentin Nelson. But this guy's once-a-generational guy. Like, there was a reason everybody said tank to get Luck.
Right.
A different word for that. But, I mean, this guy is fantastic. He's, like Seth said, he's super intelligent. He's an ultimate competitor. I mean, this kid's going to be awesome. Now, the defenses in this guy's league, Jacksonville, they're legit.
Yeah.
They're legit. And Houston, now Romeo Crennel's come back.
Yeah.
They were number 1 when they forced him out last year when he was number 1 defense in the league. Watch out, they might be number 1 again. They got all kinds of talent. So he's going to be going up against some great defenses. I think tonight will be big for him. He's got Don Martindale going out there with Baltimore. He's going to blitz the heck out of him. I've been watching him for 2 weeks. He thinks it's the regular season. It's crazy, but this guy will be under heat. But the thing about this guy, he's a winner. This guy is like I say, once in a generational guy. If he can come back and he's healthy, he's on point. He's not all the way back, but I don't think anybody, when they played this many years, is all the way back. So we'll see. I'd bet on this kid making the Pro Bowl sooner than later.
Welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to college football, where the preseason poll is out. And not surprisingly, Alabama's number one. This poll actually comes on the heels of a CBS poll where one anonymous coach called Nick Saban overrated. Colin, is it crazy to call Saban overrated?
I mean, it has to be somebody that's worked with him, that has some animus toward him or something. First of all, he's the best recruiter in the sport. He's the best defensive mind in the sport. He's probably the best builder of programs. The only thing, Urban Meyer has been able to turn programs around in year one. It usually takes Nick a couple. He's the best coach in college football history.
5 titles in 9 years. What is overrated about that?
6 titles overall,
Yeah.
2 different programs. Yeah, he's the best. By the way, think about USC's dynasty. This is double the length, and they're ranked number 1 again this year. So it has another 5 years to it.
Unbelievable. To Atlanta, where Pat Mahomes just gave the world a glimpse of why the Chiefs shipped Alex Smith out of town, throwing a monster TD pass to Tyreek Hill that traveled 69 yards in the air, farther than any TD pass all of last season. Cowherd, you sold on Mahomes and his rocket arm.
Well, I'm sold on his coach and his weapons. Jamarcus Russell had a rocket
There you
arm.
go.
So I'm sold on, if he fails, it's on him, because they got weapons and they got the coach.
I remind you, Big 12 quarterback. The learning curve for those guys is massive. He's struggling to read defenses in the underneath throws. I mean, people are eating him up in the preseason, Colin. Be careful.
All right, Whitlock's back tomorrow.
About time.
No idea where he's at, but he's back here tomorrow.